Hey, rock and roll art stars, this is Mrs. Rothermel, and I'm going to read you a book by Paul Flux called How Artists Use Line and Tone. Why? Well, our next project we're going to do is all about line. So let's dig in, shall we? So, it's been revised and updated, and it's from the Hyman Library in Chicago, Illinois. Let's see. First copyright 2001, copyright again in 2007. And here's the contents. And let's start. What lines do? Hey, that reminds me of a song. Ooh, 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 ooh. Never mind. So it says a line is a simple mark on paper. Some lines are straight, other lines are curved, wavy, or zigzag. A line can do many things. A line can make shapes in a picture. It can divide space, and it can even show feelings. When more than one line is drawn, patterns and shapes are made. And rock stars, lines are the basis of all art. Okay? If you can do lines, you can draw anything. All right, so we got a Wassily Kandinsky, Lines of Signs, that he painted in 1931. And it says, in this picture, you can see many lines. The five long ones are like the lines on a sheet of writing or music paper. Anybody here know how to read sheet music? I do. The lines break up the space. The circles, triangles, and crescent shapes look like hieroglyphics. And the brown background looks like the wall of an ancient Egyptian tomb. Different types of lines. Artists use different tools such as pens, markers, and paintbrushes to make different types of lines. The lines below are some of the kinds of lines that can be made. Some are thick and some are thin. Some are blurry and some are clear. Paul Klee, Landscape with Setting Sun, painted in 1919. Lines enclose a space, and they also help us recognize objects. The sun in this painting is clear, but look around at the rest of the picture. Can you see how a house has been suggested by just a few lines? There are many spaces filled with different colored tones. Notice how the softer shades of blue and green make the orange sun seem even stronger. Lines can have meaning. Pablo Picasso painted this famous picture in 1937 after the bombing of the beautiful Spanish city of Guernica. He wanted to show how terrible war can be. Picasso used lines to make the shapes of animals and people. He shaded these shapes to give black, gray, and white tones. The painting has no color, but the gray and black still make a dramatic picture. So we're looking at Pablo Picasso's Guernica that he made back in 1937, and I believe it's a collage. So he drew it first, some paint in there, and collage some looks like newspaper or some kind of books, pages of books in there. Here's a close-up. It says, here we see part of the building in more detail. Look at how the woman's arms and face stand out against the dark background. Her hands are twisted as she is in pain or very angry. The clear, sharp lines show the anger she must feel. So this is detail from Guernica. Lines of perspective. This picture was painted on a flat canvas, but the road seems to disappear far into the distance. Artists use line to give pictures depth. We call this perspective. The artist has used a vanishing point to which our eyes are drawn. Can you see where it is? It is where the road disappears or vanishes from view. And this is Meindert Hobbema. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The Avenue at Middle Harness, 1689. Wow, that's an old painting. Here you can see the use of perspective in a picture of a town. This is Tokyo, Japan. I think this one is in the 7th grade book or one by the same artist. It says, if you run your finger along the lines of the street, do it. You will find the vanishing point. Here, I'll wait. Try it. I'll wait till the sun goes down. Van Halen song. Look it up. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Look at how the people at the back of the picture are just tiny lines. Wow. And that's how you show perspective. Things that are far away get smaller. Things that are closer are larger. So it says, the smaller they are, the farther away they seem to be. So Ando Hiroshika, I'm not sure if I'm saying the name right. Sarawaka Cho Street, 1856. Strong lines. This is one of the first pictures ever made. Yeah, first art. It was painted on the wall of a cave the cave paintings, and could be more than 20,000 years old. It shows some stick-like men hunting deer. The artist used lines to show the shape of the deer, then filled in the space with color. The artist drew the deer very clearly, but the people were not drawn as carefully. Wonder why. They exaggerated. They focused on the deer. Look at the antlers, the one at the top there. Must be a buck. Cave painting, Spain. Here's another one. It's Alfred Wallace, The Blue Ship, about 1934 was the year. So the artist did not try to make this picture look real, and that's okay. The lighthouses are small because the ship is the most important object in the picture. Can you see that? It's like 3 lighthouses. The thick, strong lines of the ship against the blurry lines of the water give the feeling of movement at sea. How many of you have been to the lighthouse in Michigan City? Down at the lake. Art in the modern world. The artist drew this picture of people sleeping in a bomb shelter in London during World War II. The lines of huddled people mix with the lines of the tunnel to make it seem as if they are trapped. The gray, white, and yellow tones work together to make the people seem like insects wrapped up in cocoons. Henry Moore. Wow. Henry Moore. We talk about Henry Moore in the 7th grade book. He did sculptures of people that don't really look like people. Tube shelter perspective, 1941. Wow, World War II. And my late father-in-law fought over in Germany, World War II. All right, Edgar Degas, Woman Ironing, 1884. One looks like she's singing there on the left. It says the French artist Edgar Degas liked to paint and draw scenes from everyday life. Here you see 2 women ironing. It looks like only one is. Their bodies are straining with the effort of hard work. The dull colors show an ordinary daily activity, but the bold lines make the activity seem exciting. Lines and movement. Artists use lines to show movement. In this picture, a sailing ship fights against a terrible storm. The sails are torn, and although we can't see any people, we can sense the panic they must be feeling. The rocks on the right are black and frightening. The artist has balanced the delicate lines of the moving ship with dark tones and the sharp broken lines of the sky and waves. And this was painted by George Riangel, a first-rate man of war about 1826. Kind of reminds me of the movie The Perfect Storm. Or what's that show I watch on, is it on the Discovery Channel? The Great Catch or The Big Catch or whatever, where they're on a boat with those fishing boats. Yeah, that show is very interesting. How long they spend out at sea and they're trying to catch crab and other big fish to make their money before they can come back. So this is Giacomo Balla, Dynamism of a Dog on a Leash, 1912. So it says almost 100 years ago, a group of artists called the Futurists decided that they could show the modern world through painting movement and speed. This picture shows a scene from a film, and the dog and its owner are rushing past. The lines of the background mix with the dark color to make the picture look full of sudden movement. I love that. Just black on white. This was done by Gustave Doré. Illustration for Dante's book, The Divine Comedy, about 1861 is when they think it was made. It says a popular illustrator from the 1800s made this etching. And you remember etching is as a print. So they made several copies. And it was a metal plate that they scratched into and then put in an acid bath. And then after they, washed it off and dried it, because after it etched into the plate, they were able to put ink in it and then put it through a printing press with paper so it'd make copies. Back in the day before you could just hit print on your computer and it would print somewhere. So the plate was covered in ink and the picture was printed by pressing the inked side against paper. A deep cut on the metal gives us a dark tone. No color is used, only line and tone. But you can clearly see the rocks, the sea, and the cliff, and the sky. Ooh, rhinoceros. Albrecht Dürer, 1515. Hey, 8th graders, we got Albrecht Dürer in our textbook, The Hare. So this is an engraving. The artist carved the year and his initials on a plate, not a plate that you eat off of, a metal plate that he used to make this picture. It might have even been a wood plate. Said he used only line and shade to give the animal its shape, and the patterns of the skin are highly decorative and make the rhinoceros look like it's wearing armor. I really like this one the more I look at it. Lines at Work. Ooh, this one is in the 7th grade textbook by Victor Vasarely, Vega 200, done in 1968. And this is op art, meaning optical illusion art, meaning if you're looking at it on, well, it's probably not doing the optical illusion thing to you now, but if you were look at it in a book or a better picture online, it would. So it says this picture seems to be bursting out of the center of the page, yet it is perfectly flat. The artist used his skill with line to make this happen. There is a perfect circle in the center. And can you see the lines of the oval shapes? I'll give you a moment. It says they run across the picture like a giant cross and draw your eyes to the middle. Look again. Yeah, they do. Now it's getting more optical illusion-y. It says the bright tones at the center look brighter because of the dull shades at the edge. Wow, so you see that? How the colors, as they move towards the center, get brighter and brighter, but the ones moving out to the edge get duller and duller and darker. Cool trick of the eye there. All right, Roy Lichtenstein. Oh, one of my favorites. Roy Lichtenstein. Pop artist. Used to copy comic book or comics out of the newspaper and make art out of them. And then he'd use his style to do other things. This one's called Still Life with Lemons, 1975. It says lines work together to create a dramatic effect. In this picture, the artist used dark lines to break the picture into pieces. He painted stripes of different colors that work together. Your eyes are drawn to the lemons in the middle of the picture because their solid shapes and bright tones are made stronger by the lines around them. Pretty cool. I like how the picture plane is broken up. It's Cubism too. We'll talk about Cubism and Pablo Picasso in the 7th grade book. 8th grade, you should remember that. You should remember about Picasso and Cubism. Okay, so I'm not going to go over these little exercises, but I won't read the do-it-yourself, but I will read what it says about. It says Paul Klee, the Swiss artist, said that drawing a line is like taking a dot for a walk. Okay, so let me move on down the line. And here's different types of lines. Tools and techniques. Jackson Pollock, Blue Poles, 1952. Man, there's a great movie that was made. I can't remember who played Jackson Pollock, but Jackson Pollock, he was known as the artist who, very moody, and he would take buckets of paint and he would just like splatter them on a canvas, and the canvas would be like as big as the floor. He'd be like part of the painting. Beautiful stuff. So it says the artist Jackson Pollock found exciting ways of applying paint. He flicked, dripped, and splashed lines of paint onto canvas on the floor. When he had finished, he gave the picture a title which came from something he saw in the painting. Can you see why he called this one Blue Poles? You see the blue poles? They almost look black here. What might Jackson Pollock have been thinking about when he painted this picture? Who knows? I even read a book called the Psychoanalytic Drawings, or was it Paintings of Jackson Pollock? It was written by a psychiatrist or psychologist who were like psychoanalyzing his work. My first I think it was my first day on campus at IPFW in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. Used to be the Fort Wayne Institute of Art, and they had all the art buildings downtown for classes, and they had a library with it was all art books. Oh my God, I wonder if it's still there. Loved it. And that day I had some time to kill. I'm one of these people where I love it when I have time to just browse in the library, and if a book jumps out at me, I grab it and look at it and check it out and read it. Well, I had time, and it was a small enough book. I sat on the floor, I grabbed that book, and I read it. I forget how long it took me. Maybe it took me an hour or two. But man, amazing how psychiatrists looked at his paintings and are like, well, this painting means he was feeling this. All right, so look at this. You can do your own Jackson Pollock if you take a bag of paint and like drop it like or should I say, move it around like a pendulum. Lines and portraits. It says portraits have been painted from the very earliest times. This portrait was made to go over the top of an Egyptian mummy about 1,900 years ago, and the artist used line and tone to bring out the features of the face. says the darker tones show shadows and make the bones around her nose, jaw, and eyes clear. And this is Portrait of a Woman about AD 100. Man, it's old. And then it shows you a little do-it-yourself. Lines and feelings. In each block of this painting, the artist used different color tones. This kind of art is called abstract. Let me tell you my little poem about abstract, because we got portraits, which are pictures of people and or animals. We got still lifes, which are pictures of, or should I say artwork about things that can't move on their own, like bowls of fruit and such. Then we have landscapes, which is outdoors. And then you have abstract. Now, abstract is usually a design with lines and color and shapes. And I used to, I remember teaching my kindergartners back at 21st Century Charter School a little rhyme. Or was it at Beveridge Elementary in Gary Public? I don't remember. But anyway, but my little rhyme was, if you take a look and say, what is that? You know it must be an abstract. So abstract, when you look at the artwork, you're like, I don't know what it is right away. But the more I look at it, maybe I'll figure out an idea. So if you take a look and say, what is that? You know it must be an abstract. So even though it's not a picture of something you recognize, the artist's choice of color and use of lines is meant to make you feel something specific, such as calm or peacefulness. It almost looks like it could be water and a sunset. It says Mark Rothko, Yellow, Blue, and Orange, 1955. And Rothko did a lot of field painting. They called that field painting, where he would just like divide up and there'd be like one color or just a few colors, and it was really abstract. So here you can do your DIY a Rothko. And here is some, I want to read this glossary to you because I'll tell you what, we're going to be doing a Google form that has questions about, it's going to identify some of the artworks in this video, and you're going to identify the vocabulary in here. So I'm going to read this glossary to you. So abstract, kind of art that does not try to show people or things, but instead focuses on shape or color. And these words were in bold, what I was just reading. Apply, to put paint onto a surface. Armor, metal suit or covering worn by knights. Canvas, strong woven material on which many artists paint. Cocoon, silky case spun by some insects to protect themselves or their eggs. Crescent, shaped like the moon when less than half of it can be seen. Decorative, pleasant or interesting to look at. Delicate, very fine, gentle. Depth, feeling of space and distance in a picture. Dramatic, having a strong feeling or effect. Engraving, picture made by inking and printing an image of an artist has cut into something hard, such as metal or wood. Etching, picture made by inking and printing a metal surface on which an image has been scratched out by acid. Futurist, group of Italian painters working about 100 years ago. Hieroglyphic, kind of writing done with pictures. Illustrator, person who makes pictures for books. Mummy, dead body that has been treated with chemicals to make it last a long time. Outline, line that shows the edge and shape of an object. Perspective, the way an artist draws or paints on a flat surface so there seems to be space and distance in the picture. Plate, metal or other hard substance that can be inked and pressed against paper or cloth to make an image. Pose, to sit or stand still for an artist. Portrait, painting, drawing, or photograph of a person. And I want to add, or one or more people and or animals. Scene, view painted by an artist or place where something happens. Shade, darker or lighter version of a color. Skill, ability to do something difficult very well. Solid, looking like a real physical object having a defined form and weight. Style, way that an artist paints a picture. Tone, depth of color from light to dark or dull to bright. Vanishing point, place in a picture where all the lines of perspective meet and where the picture seems to disappear into the distance. World War II, war that was fought in Europe between 1939 and 1945. And then they got more books you can read. I won't go through there. And here's the index. And it says line and tone. What is tone? How do artists use lines to make pictures seem to move? Who are the futurists? Okay. And we'll be, it says, you will find the answers to these questions and more. I should have read this at the beginning. I'm sorry. As you read how artists use line and tone. And I have the whole set. So I'll be reading the other ones to you in the near future. And I want to check out, so I really love these books, what other ones they have. So It says these books in these series introduce young artists, that's you, to a wide selection of fascinating works of art. Each book looks at how great artists have used particular visual qualities, elements, and principles of art in their work and effects that they have achieved. Step-by-step activities help children use the characteristics in their own work. So other titles in the series are color, line and tone, pattern and texture, perspective and shape. And I have them all. All right. So take care, rock and roll art stars. Hope you learned a lot. You got that Google form that goes with this. And stay tuned for the projects that will involve line and tone. Rock on, rock and roll art stars. This is Mrs. Rothermel saying take care.